Discover the secret to drawing birds through simple anatomy, simple stick figures. My name's Anica and my channel's about finding easier ways to draw and paint birds, flowers and animals in watercolour. You know, a lot of people find drawing birds quite difficult, and so did I, until I found a way that helped me enormously. This way you can draw birds in any position you like. You can tell the story that you want to tell. Your birds can be different to everybody else's. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to look at 3 photos and put our X-ray vision eyes on. We're going to guess where the bones are, with just some simple lines. Then we'll transfer this onto a sketch and give the bird some skin and some feathers, and then we'll have great birds. We'll do this 3 times, 3 different positions, and then lastly we'll do a comical one where you see that with a bit of practice you can put them in any position you like. You know, there are at least 10,000 species of birds in the world, but they all have something in common. They all have a head, a neck, a body, 2 wings and 2 feet and a tail. So that gives us something to work on. I really love this comprehensive book by Natalia, Dr. Natalia Balo, Bird Anatomy for Artists. Here we have a skeleton of a bird. In this case it's a little raven, but I love the way she compares it to the body of a human. So the spine, see the hip there, and then they have a knee. This part you don't see. We see the ankle, which we often think is the knee, but it's not, it's the ankle. And then the foot. And if you ever forget which way the bones go, you just look at your own. The shoulder starts up here, and then you have the elbow and the wrist. And then the hand where the primary feathers come off of. So likewise in a human, the wrist, and this is where the primary feathers are. Here she has another skeleton. This one's of a rock dove. Different birds will have different lengths of bones, but generally speaking, they all have the same parts. So all birds have a head, a neck, a body. They have legs and wings and a tail. There we go. And if we dress this little fellow up, we'll have an eye and a beak and a head, neck and body, tail, give him a tummy, he'll have a wing and a leg and a foot and some toes. For our first sparrow example, we'll start with finding the center of his back, and that'll be the spine, a neck and an eye-beak line. Going back to the spine, he'll have a pelvis down there and then a shoulder area up the top. Going back to the leg, from the hip we'll extend the bone to the knee. We never see the knee in a bird, but we do see the ankle, which is the next one coming up. There's the ankle. And then we have the foot and the toes or the digits. We can give the bird a second leg from the other side. And then let's go up to the shoulder area, and the shoulder bends inwards to the elbow and then outwards to the wrist, and then downwards to the hand, which hold all the primary feathers. When we have a close look at this area, you can actually see the fold of the wing. So it goes in like that and out, and this bend here is the wrist. When you're aware of how the bones go, it's so much easier because you'll see these very faint suggestions and it will really help. So now I've just added in the tail and we're ready to go. For this first exercise, let's replicate the lines that we've made on top of the photo. So I'm putting in the spine with the line like that. And then we have the shoulder area and the hip area. And then I can make dots for where the other bones are. So if that's the hip, I could say this is the knee, and then the ankle will be here and the feet will be here. So join them up from the hip to the knee to the ankle and to the foot. And imagine one on the other side. And we have another foot there. Then we have our shoulder and elbow and wrist. There's the wing. Made a neck coming up like this and an eye beak line like this. He also has a tailbone. So I can see that the little V shape, the negative space between the bird's head and the body is right around there according to our little sketch. So let's do a slightly rounded back, and then the feathers round off again, and then we have the tail and the head isn't completely roundish, but it's more like that. And the eye sits here on the line, and then we have the beak. I'm looking at the dark area around his eye and putting that in, a bit like that. And coming down for his body, and now I'm looking at the angle of how the curve goes for his body. And it comes around here, and I can see that the legs are here, so all this is matching up. And then we have the undertail feathers, and they match up too. So that's pretty good. And then we have the wing itself, and as it folds in, and if you look at the photo carefully, you can actually see a hint of this triangle and the bend in the wing, and there's a shadow here because this wing is bent towards us. We can also see that the feathers come down like this as if it was all meant to be, and also down like this. And these here are the primary feathers. So when we go back up to the head, we have a look at this negative space in there, and we have the negative space there, the top of the wing here. Then we can see a shape like this, and in, and our sparrow is looking pretty good. So to go over this sparrow now, I like the way the markings of the bird come down like this, and these feathers are actually seen, the pattern of them in this particular photo, like that. Primary feathers and the tail and the undertail area. They have a back toe, which we can just make one oval like that and a hook. And then they have 3 toes at the front. 1, 2, 3. And the middle one will be the longest. To make it easier for us, let's have a look at a page out of Dr. Natalia Balo's book on feet. These are feet of a finch, and how they compare to a human foot. Keeping this information in mind certainly helps to decipher the feet. So to summarize, if the bird was standing right here in front of us, they have one jointed toe at the back, which they can't bend, and then the inside one will have two joints and a hook, and then the middle one will have three joints, and then the outside one, which is shorter than the middle one, will have four. But it's so that they can bend their way around the branch better, and you'll often see the middle one a bit relaxed, just hanging down. So, but we always count the joints from the inside out. So one here, two here, three, and the outside one is four. So when we know that, we can kind of keep it in mind, and we can just say, look, there's a hooked toe at the back there, and we can put one in there and there, and it's enough, otherwise it gets too busy. So that was our first one. But you can see that the stick figure really helped with the overall shape of everything. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. Let's start with our second sparrow, and we'll start with the spine. And there's our line for the spine, and he'll have a hip area and a shoulder area. And if you look carefully here at the foot, you can see where the ankle is, which is just about there, and so it bends inwards like so. So this is the hip, which joins to the knee, which goes to the ankle and the foot. I won't do the other one on the other side, just so there's not too many lines. And here for the tail. And then up in the shoulder area, we also have a Z, so it'll go from the shoulder to the elbow, to the wrist, and the hand. Now let's do the neck. So the neck, and then the eye beak line. Pretty soon you'll get the hang of this, because look, it's just a spine and a Z for the legs that bends inwards first, and the wings bend inwards first. And then we have a neck. Small birds can bend their neck at least 180 degrees. Some birds, like owls, even go up to 250. But anyway, that's all we need to know for now. And now we can draw this sparrow. Now let's draw these lines just as we did on the photo. So the center line, which of course is also his spine, and we decided the pelvis is here and the shoulders are there, so we can mark in where the bones will be. So the hip, the knee, the ankle, and his foot. When I look at the photo, I can see that the foot ends roughly where the shoulder is, so I know to put, not to go much further than that point. So let's do that and that. So that's our first leg. With the other one, it's mainly hidden, or it's a little bit in the air anyway, but we can still imagine putting in the knee, from the hip to the knee to the ankle, and his foot is kind of in the air there, but we'll put it down like this. So then we have our wing, and the shoulder is up here, and the elbow and wrist. So we can connect those dots, and the primary feathers will come out this way. Then I can see the head, and the neck will go up, and the eye beak line is there according to our sketch. And then we also have the tail. Now if we go over this with a pencil, with the pencils, I'm going to sharpen my pencil. These sharpeners are great. They make really long points. They just look funky, and if they look funky, they're better. Alright, so if I look at this shoulder point, I can see that the body is coming out like so, and then I can see that the curve of the back is coming towards the the wrist, and it comes down like this. The primary feather line is here, so I can do that. And let's put in the tail. Now let's see what we're up to. We have our ankle for the leg that we can see, and we have the body of the sparrow, a bit like that. And as you can see, it all kind of matches up. So up here we have the head turned the other way, and the curve of the head slopes down and a little bit like that. Right, now I'll go over with the marker and see what we can do with this one.
Sparrows. Love 'em or hate 'em, I love 'em. Did you know that they're the easiest birds to attract to your garden or to wherever you are? Now, this is according to a website called A2ZofAnimals.com, and they say that you can actually attract sparrows through fishing, pishing, unquote. What is pishing? Pishing is a way of imitating a bird's call to attract them. It's a valuable technique for birders to master. If the weather's good and there aren't nearby humans, it's easy to call for sparrows. Other birds that respond to pishing include warblers, wrens, kinglets, jays, finches, and chickadees. Wow! Well, I think that'd be a fabulous thing to learn. I'm going to explore this further and see what I can learn, because I'm often out there with my camera waiting for someone to pose for me, but they don't kind of do it when I'm ready. Yeah. Anyway, back to this website, I can see that sparrows actually use cigarettes as nesting material. This is again a quote from the website. Sparrows in the city are using cigarette butts to protect their nest. The nicotine helps drive away parasitic mites. When they can find an unsmoked cigarette, those butts work better than the smoked ones. This is because they have more nicotine to trap the mites. Unquote. And male sparrows sound sexier in the cold. Apparently, males start singing as early as 5 a.m. and they fade into silence by 6 a.m. Yes, well, there's lots of interesting facts about sparrows on this website called A-Z-Animals.com. It's fantastic. I'll put that down in the description below.
Now sometimes I do the feet like this. For example, now if the foot's down like this, a quick way would be just like that, and that suggests the ball, and there's the claw. So then on this side, if this foot is on the outside, it'll have the fall. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a claw, and then 1, 2, 3, and the claw, and then you can actually close them down the bottom and they look like that. So on that side it'll be a two jointer, like that. So there's a branch and I have a foot coming down. I'll just do that and not even worry about counting all the toes, or sometimes just like that, and then rub that bit out. This is now our third sparrow, so let's put a line through his center and it will continue onto his spine on the back. Alright, so here will be his pelvis area and here will be the shoulder area. So the legs in this case, they have to go in to the knee and then they go down to the ankle and then to the foot. And then on the other side, it'll be much the same. I'll try to make it a thinner line. Like that. Oops, I made a little mistake here. See this? The center actually goes like that, because you can also see the markings on the sparrow, which of course have to be in the middle, and they're the markings. Alright, so his wing is set back, so it'll just be a nice little closed Z from the shoulder to the elbow to the wrist, and then across. And then for the neck, let's go up and like that. And the tail, there's another good way of telling us how to put the tail. So there's the tailbone, but if you're wondering, you know, should I stick it this way, that way, this way, it goes, you have to, it's like putting a rod right through the little sparrow, and from the center of his chest, it would go like straight through, like that. So now let's try to draw this one. So I'll be starting with the spine, which is just a short one like that. And here is the pelvis and the shoulder area. And then I can see I've put in the knee and ankle and foot, and there's a table here, and he's got his back toe back and his front one's forward, and then we have the wing, the elbow and the wrist, and it's packed in. I'm following those creamy white lines. That's all I'm doing at this stage, and just plonking them in because they're a simple few lines. Now I can come in with the pencil and put in the missing bits. So the eye seems to be there. This is straight over the beak area. So when you've got those lines in, it's probably easier to look at a photo without all those lines, because otherwise they're just in the way. So let's do that now. So we have his eye there, and then we have the beak and his head, and I'm also looking at the negative space between the head and the beak, and I can see that the beak should really be out a little bit, so I'm going to do that a bit like that. It's actually good if you've got both photos. So the negative space here at the back is about there. And going back to the throat, see how it goes. This could be one continuous line from the forehead down, and then it goes in. And if you have a look how the relationship between this line and this line, now when I look at the ankle of the foot that we can see most of, I can see that the feathered area is a bit like that, and then the undertail area and the tail, and you can see how it all seems to match up quite easily. Then we have the middle of the the sparrow, which kind of goes a bit like that, and we know that this point is where the markings on the front of his chest are. And they seem to go a bit like that, and then continuing this line, his wrist is in there, but it's covered up by his chest feathers. And I can see the markings on his wing. The ones that are white are in there. And when I look at the head and I look at the foot where it comes out, it's about there. So this is now kind of on the table. Let's say the table's a bit like that. So his toe, so remember on the inside it's always the 2 jointer. Then he has the 3 jointer and the 4s on the other side. So here we could have the 1. This is now on the outside, so this is the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be the 3. And this will be the 2. You can do a little triangle here at the front where all these digits meet the foot, and there we have it. So now let's go over this with a marker. I'm going to start at the eye. I think the eye is just a little bit lower, just in there, and his beak is a little bit 3/4 view, so I'll put him like that and put the other side of his head on the other side of the beak, and his crown markings are a bit like that, and the normal parts of the head that we spoke about aren't clearly visible here, so we won't worry about them. So he doesn't have a clearly distinguishable malar, but it looks like he's got a dark throat, and this is all part of the cheek and the malar area. So his nape is the brown colour, a few feathers, so he's brown in there, kind of white in there, and then we have these chest feathers, and then the white markings in here, and the feathers like that, and some of those darker patches, and then he'll need a tail, his undertail area.
So tell me, how are you finding all this? Let me know in the comments below. Is it easy enough to follow, or would you prefer drawing with shapes? Your feedback is important to me, whatever it is. I'm confident all this will sink in quicker than you think, and then you'll give it a twist of your own and it will really sink in then.
So this is the inside one, always has the 2, then the 3. So you haven't put in too much detail in the feet area, but it's enough. So there's our third sparrow. Now if I was to rub out the pink lines, we can then see what we're left with and if we're missing anything. But it really is, well, at least for me, and I'm hoping that you're getting something out of this, it really is a great way of getting your bird together. Now let's try something funky. What I'd like to bring to your attention is that putting these bones in, or these stick figures as I call them, you can do anything you like. So for example, if we had a little torso here, and of course we have a spine going through it, this bird is going to just stand up and look at us, and not even like a bird, because we can do anything we like. So remember, they have a neck, and the neck is full of bendable, movable vertebrae. So I'm going to twist it over to this side. And then we have the eye beak line, and we can put one of our little funky skeletons on it, like that. And then we know that we have a wing, and we can maybe say, well, this one's going to be just loose hanging down, and then on this side we might have it going up. And then we have our pelvis area, and we might say, okay, so from the hip to the knee to the ankle to the foot, and maybe on this side, well, he's doing something similar, but like that. So 1, 2, 3 in the back one, and we have a tail. So now let's dress this up. So if this is the wing, let's start here. The wing, there is the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist. It's at the wrist area that we have our little allure feathers, the ones that stick out like this, and they help with the wind and navigation and whatnot. And the feathers, so they go out, gradually more angled and gradually coming down. And then we have these, so these are the primary feathers, the allures there, and then these are the secondary ones. And the tertiaries are in there. So this wing, when we give him some feathers on top, could look like that. I will do that with the darker marker, or we'll just do it now. Alright, so let's go back up to the beak. And the eye. And let's say that he's got this one coming down, which of course the primaries will be out here and the secondaries will be in there. And then he has his body, and he has a chest, and he has a belly, and his undertail feathers, and his tail. Then he has his legs, that we have the hip area, the knee, the ankle, and I think all the pink lines are in the way, but nevertheless, look, he's a funky fellow. If I go over this now with